Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. As you already know, with the Crown Form meta shift in the Master League, you either have to run the Crown Forms or look to counter them. And a Pokemon that people like to use is Ho-Oh due to the fact that it completely walls off the moves of Zacian and Zamazenta. But today, I'm flipping the script. I'm safe switching Zacian, trying to bait out Ho-Oh, and then surprise it with Zacian's most powerful charge attack, Giga Impact. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Giga Impact some Ho-Ohs. Hopping into game number 1, picking up a very neutral lead Kyogre into Zygarde. I have 2 better responses in the back, so I save switch into Zacian. Opponent banks energy, in comes Ho-Oh, and the trap has been set. Zacian is normally fully walled here, farming up, going for the Giga Impact. Do they respect it? They do not! Ho-Oh gets nuked! And it looks like I can just shield once, Metal Claw down, and win switch advantage. Ho-Oh goes for the Sacred Fire, but they get the attack drop, and that means they live on 1 HP, meaning I'm forced to go down both shields in order to win switch. That is extremely unfortunate. If they didn't get the debuff, I wouldn't have had to burn a second shield. They're now going to bring out Lunala. Lunala will immediately be hit with a -1 Behemoth Blade that is going to grab a shield. But getting switch advantage is massive here because Ice Fang Zamazenta is going to completely obliterate that Zygarde. They're going to fire off the Shadow Ball. I'm going to overfarm to watch for a catch. Opponent does not go for it, and now they go for it. I overfarm to avoid a catch, and the catch happens anyway. Nice catch of the surf, but now it's Zamazenta time. We'll have to see what moveset this Zygarde is running. The Zygarde throws on alignment. Zygarde players love to do that, and they're running Crunch Outrage. They are completely walled by Zamazenta, and Zamazenta gets to absolutely feast. Back-to-back crunches do less than no damage. Zamazenta is going to exit with the back-to-back Behemoth Bashes, meaning that this game should basically be over. Behemoth Bash is going to grab the shield, going for Behemoth Bash number 2. This will not knock out, but it's just too much damage. My opponent should not be able to recover from this health range. They are going to fire off the Shadow Ball. That's going to land onto Zamazenta. Quick switch into Kyogre to snipe down with Waterfalls, and that is a good game. Moving into game number 2, and it's a terrible lead for Kyogre leading into Palkia. Quick save switch into Zacian. Zacian is going to be answered with Dawn Wings. Not quite the Ho-Oh that I was looking to bait out here. Unfortunately, Dawn Wings has a Ghost subtyping. This is not something I can throw a Giga Impact at, as Giga Impact obviously would be double resisted. So I'm forced to go for the Behemoth Blades. I commit the shield, and that proves to be a wise decision as my opponent full sends the Moongeist Beam. Behemoth Blade number 2 is going to connect, down goes Dawn Wings, and now my opponent is going to bring in their own Zacian. Another scenario where flipping switch is incredibly advantageous for me. I'm going to fire off Behemoth Blade. That is going to be shielded by my opponent. Will they be able to get a full farm down here? The answer is yes. No close combat means that unfortunately I'm not able to get a second move. In comes Kyogre. I'm just fully sacrificing Kyogre here. There's the close combat. I wait there, assuming they would just switch into the Palkia, which they do. And now I can just bring out Zamazenta. And Zamazenta is in a great spot to close out this game. Palkia can fire off whatever Aqua Tails they want to. It's just not going to matter. These Ice Fangs add up more and more. I just need to get them in a range where close combat can knock them out. I think they can barely hang on here to the close combat, but an Ice Fang is going to pick up the knockout, and my opponent is going to resign the match. We move to the next game, Kyogre versus Meloetta. Now this is a Pokemon I haven't seen in a while, but I'm very okay staying in here to absorb a Psyshock, and then once the Psyshock lands, just looking to send out Zacian. So I'm going to be no shielding on Kyogre. They're running Thunderbolt on Meloetta. That's big damage. Save switch Zacian, in comes Ho-Oh, and this is very good to bait out. Obviously, Zamazenta doesn't want anything to do with this Ho-Oh, so I get to fire off the Giga Impact. It connects, and that's huge damage onto Ho-Oh. I don't really think switch advantage helps me a ton here, so I'm actually just going to let this through. I was able to bait out the Ho-Oh, get it very low, and I can snipe down with Ice Fangs from Zamazenta. Zamazenta, up energy, I'm hoping will do well against their backline. My opponent is going to have their own Zamazenta, And honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about how this game is going to play out. I'm up energy in the mirror. Close combat is going to inflict massive damage onto my opponent. Close combat is going to be shielded. I get the Ice Fang through as they return fire with a close combat of their own. They actually go for the Behemoth Bash here, so they do not want to lower their defense just yet. I'm going to fire off close combat number 2 into the Zamazenta. It lands, but my opponent hangs on, and I'm forced to commit the shield. I'm going to look to snipe with Kyogre. In comes Meloetta, and they throw a move. That's so bad for me, as I lose the energy on the Kyogre. I needed that energy to force a shield, as now, unfortunately, I'm actually going to end up losing this game. Man, this game was so winnable. When I bring in Kyogre, if I just anticipate that they bring in the Meloetta and click the Surf, not throwing the Waterfall, then I could have forced the shield, and then I just knock out with the Behemoth Bash, farm down their Zamazenta, and win the game. But unfortunately, due to my own error, that game will be a loss. Unfortunately, as we move into the next match, we see the worst possible lead, Kyogre into Palkia. Safe switch into the Zacian. Zacian answered with Lunala, and this is not really a counter swap here. Lunala is behind on energy, which is not where Lunala wants to be. Lunala does have strong neutral matchups, but behind on energy, and with my Zacian coming into the matchup at full HP, Zacian is going to generate a very healthy advantage here. So I'm going to be firing off Behemoth Blade, they're going to end up committing the shield, and they're going to go for a full farm down. Considering my opponent has a Palkia, my Kyogre has absolutely no value in this match whatsoever. Kyogre is just going to be a gigantic meat shield for this matchup. I'm just going to fully sacrifice it and trust in 2-shield Zamazenta. If I'm going to win, it's going to be because Zamazenta wins this game. Lunala is going to bank a Shadow Ball for later. That's a brilliant play on their part, and bring in Palkia. It's really smart because they know that to get rid of the Palkia, I have to debuff my defense. I'm farming up to 100 energy, firing off the close combat. I need this to pick up the knockout, or I will have to go down a shield, but Palkia survives, and I will be forced to give up a shield, and this is going to be such a tricky game. I do get the farm down. I have quite a bit of energy. Opponent is going to send out Zacian Crown, and I click Behemoth Bash. In the moment, I realized this is immediately a mistake. I should have gone for the double close combats because Behemoth Bash plus close combat doesn't KO. Double close combat would have KO'd. And unfortunately, by not going for the double close combats, I'm forced to burn a shield, and then they can just KO me with the move on Lunala. Maybe we could have reverse swept with the Zamazenta. It would have been really difficult, but unfortunately, by clicking the wrong move, I definitely sealed my fate. We move to the next match. 2 losses in a row. We really got to get some redemption. We get a great lead though. Kyogre into Rhyperior. Opponent safe switches into their own Kyogre, which is a crazy thing to safe switch a Kyogre. Unfortunately, I'm really weak to Kyogre in the back, so I actually can't punish their Kyogre switch in. My opponent did end up respecting the Thunder. I call the bait, and now I'm just really far ahead. I'm going to be firing off another Surf. I just need chip damage onto the Kyogre, and my opponent double shields. They really do not like this Kyogre. They will win the charge attack priority tie here. It's a 50-50 coin flip, and Surf will pick up the KO, and now I get to bring in Zacian. This is going to be very difficult just because the Kyogre's remaining health is going to be very uncomfortable for me to get rid of. I can't really ever farm it down. I want to hold on to this energy on the Zacian, so I think I'm going to have to shield and then probably switch because I'm at risk of getting farmed down. My opponent sends out Zacian as their final Pokemon, and I will fire off the Behemoth Bash. Last game, going for the Behemoth Bash was the loose con because I didn't have the time to get the Ice Fangs to put it into double bash range. But in this game, I absolutely do. Since I haven't debuffed myself, I should be able to hang on to a close combat, fire off the Behemoth Bash, and take the KO. Maybe I should have shielded that, but in the moment, I was really trusting in the loaded energy on Zacian to take home this win. So Zacian is going to be firing off Behemoth Blade. That one-shots Rhyperior. In comes Kyogre. We farmed down Kyogre, and that game got quite uncomfortable, but we are able to survive with a win. Moving to the next match, and what a lead. Kyogre into Ho-Oh. Opponent safe switches into Goldengo. It's actually on Hex. I want to save the Kyogre for the Ho-Oh, so I end up bringing in the Zamazenta, but in hindsight, I should have just stayed in with the Kyogre. Kyogre can always just shield and farm through a Goldengo, and if Goldengo matches shield, then it can always just go down a shield. But by bringing in Zamazenta, I've just lost switch advantage. because this is a Hex Goldango, not an Astonished Goldango. So they get to moves faster than I was expecting, and I lose Switch. If they have a Palkia in the back, the game is just over, but a stroke of good luck. It's not a Palkia, it's a Duskmane Necrozma, and it's actually a Psycho Cut Duskmane Necrozma. So this trainer breaking out all the anti-meta movesets. I am going to respect a potential Outrage here. We'll find out what moveset they're on. They are on Dark Pulse, and now I'm going to be firing off Surf number 2. I just need to force shields from my opponent, and then it's time. I'm going to be using Giga Impact to get rid of this Ho-Oh. In comes Ho-Oh, farming up with the Zacian. Zacian farming up to 100 energy, and it's time. Let Giga Impact fly. Big damage rocking the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is going to be firing off a last-second charge attack. And Zacian has done its job. It neutralized the Ho-Oh. That's going to give farm to Kyogre. And now it's a guessing game. Will they go for the nuke? I say no. I call the bait. It's the Dark Pulse. And this game will end in a win as Kyogre gets to the Surf. Surf is going to knock out Duskmane. And we barely survive with a victory. Hopping into the next match. And the Kyogre lead met with the Palkia once again. That is devastating. The save switch into Zacian, this time answered with a Shadow Rhyperior. Shadow Rhyperior will have to throw energy here typically, or I can make it to a Behemoth Blade plus a close combat. But I'm not running close combat, which means I don't get a move here, but I actually get the damage registration error, allowing me to get a second Behemoth Blade. So a massive stroke of good luck goes my way. I'm now going to be bringing in the Kyogre. The Waterfall goes through, and that's going to be cleanly knocking out the Rhyperior here as they connect with the Rock Wrecker. In comes Palkia. I get to bring in Zamazenta, and my new goal is just Ice Fang it into close combat range. I don't really care about Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is never a threatening move to Zamazenta. My opponent is going to bring in their own Zamazenta, and now let's unleash some close combats. Close combat will not knock out my opponent, but it will inflict some massive damage. And now I can use my first shield of the match and just look to farm up pretty close to the back-to-back moves. So I'm going to farm up back-to-back, and now I can just fire off close combats. And at this point, my opponent doesn't really have a win condition because even though they're not in close combat range yet, this just does too much damage. So the close combat is going to land. I'm 4 stages debuff, but it does not matter. We still get the farm down and the win. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Kyogre into Zamazenta. Opponent save switches into Goldango. Goldango, this time going to fire off the Power Gem. Unfortunately, the time that I stay in, they gem right away. The time that I switch out, they don't end up going for it. So I'm definitely not getting all the calls right today. I fire off the Surf. Goldango will commit the shield. Goldango going to look for a farm down of Kyogre and gets the farm down of Kyogre. Now I'm going to bring in Zacian. I do get denied. My fast move doesn't go through, which is unfortunate as they go for the Shadow Ball. And they're now going to pivot into Dawn Wings. Dawn Wings, bit of an uncomfortable Pokemon here, as Dawn Wings obviously has very strong neutrals. I fire off the Behemoth Blade. I realize I'm not getting to another move, so I'm forced to bring in Zamazenta. This is such a bad spot to be in. I'll be forced to give up both shields, and then I'm going to be shieldless against a potential close combat from my opponent's Zamazenta. And their Zamazenta is still full health, whereas my Zamazenta unfortunately has taken quite a lot of Shadow Claw damage. I will fire off Behemoth Bash to pick up the knockout, but I think I'm in an incredible amount of trouble. I'm going to be firing off the close combat. I need a perfect catch to win it. I'm going to farm past when they get the close combat here, trying for the catch, but I do not get it. And now I just lose this game. That is absolutely tragic. Close combat picks up the knockout, and I cannot get to my move. Terrific energy management from my opponent. And unfortunately, with a double ghost backline, they had nothing for me to Giga Impact. Hopping into the final match, Kyogre into Crown Form Zacian. Pretty okay lead for the Kyogre to play out of. Crown Form Zacian farming up a ton of energy. I try and go for the Surf, but instead they're going to fire off the close combat first. Instead, they actually go for Play Rough, so an interesting choice of Zacian moveset. So, like me, they're not running the cheaper close combat. Surf is going to land, I will get the full farm down, and if they bring in a dragon, which they do, I get to pivot into Zacian. In the back, they have Shadow Rhyperior. Shadow Rhyperior, always deadly. It's one of the reasons why I like having Kyogre on the team this season, because Kyogre just gives you a way to completely shut down Rhyperior. Rhyperior will fire off a last-second breaking swipe to pick up the knockout. Down goes Zacian. I bring in Kyogre, and the waterfall goes through. I don't know if this will fully KO, but I'll shield anyway just so it lands. The second waterfall will pick up the knockout, and now it's just Zamazenta cruising to victory in the endgame. Each Ice Fang that lands, getting them closer and closer to close combat range. At this point, their only win con is a Hail Mary Fire Blast, so I will respect it. Even at -2 defense, if I shield the first Aqua Tail, a -2 defense Aqua Tail will not knock out. So to me, it's a very safe shield just covering for their only win con, because that Aqua Tail will not KO, but you know what will? That close combat. So I get to fire off the close combat, down goes Palkia, and that is a good game. All in all, I did have some fun trying to Giga Impact every Ho-Oh that I saw. Giga Impact is definitely not a moveset that I would ever recommend running, as Zacian's typical moveset of close combat plus Behemoth Blade just gives it an incredible amount of flexibility. Obviously, it's limited in the Ho-Oh matchup, but Steel plus Fighting coverage is incredibly strong in a Master League where it's really difficult to resist both, unless your name is Ho-Oh. So even though I did have some fun, I definitely did end up dropping some elo trying to land these Giga Impacts, as there were quite a few games where if I had close combat on the Zacian, I could have won it, but unfortunately with no close combat, no better pacing, then I ended up in a lot of scenarios where I ended up getting outpaced. So overall, it was a very fun experiment, led to some very enjoyable battles. Not a strategy I would recommend for those who are looking to climb elo in the Master League. I think you could probably borrow the team and just run a normal Zacian moveset and probably have good results. If you have Water Urshifu, I think Water Urshifu is probably the best lead for this team. I just don't have a Water Urshifu, so I'm using the closest thing to that, and that is Kyogre. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.